Hi, buddy, Jeff here. Just want to bring up we've had another article come up here, and a post come up on LinkedIn about code switching and with Vice President Harris, who has different ethnic backgrounds, and the post here is pretty good. The public has become much more aware of the linguistic phenomenon known as code switching, that is alternating between different dialects or languages, and how Vice President Harris has been facing some criticism about code switching during her speeches, and which is rooted in her linguistic and cultural background. Um, I think this is a really good thing. I've done a little bit of searching on some things, and there are a number of articles that come out in the Associated Press, in New York Times. Actually, John McWhorter, who's a peer of mine, a graduate, we were both graduate students in Creole linguistics and Creole linguistics at the same time, and now he's an associate professor at Columbia and in New York. And so he talks a lot about African languages, well, the influence of African languages in the United States, and since he's Afro American, and he talks a lot about that. And it's really good. Read his piece in the New York Times about his opinion piece about it. And the code switching thing is, and I'm not going to go back and explain what I said in another uh, video about the difference between code mixing and code switching. I think really this is code mixing, what we're hearing here. It's individual words here and there. It's not necessarily switching at the level of at the sentence level. It's in the middle of a sentence, intra-sentential rather than intersentential. I'm not going to go into that, and I don't think it's really important to be ready to go down and go through that detail. In If you want to know more about these things, the two fields of linguistics that are really important. Well, I'll bring up another point here before I come to that. In one of the comments here in this to this article, there's a comment by someone that said that we all we all a lot of people don't realize that they actually code switch themselves but not at a high stake. And so the example was that, this person said he's guilty of this when he's talking to trades, and he might be, saying an extra word, the pal or mate here and there, and get with a little bit of accent, and that'll switch. That's registers. So I want to make a distinction here. That's the thing of talking with a different social register. So if you want to talk about, we could put this in the whole field of code switching. Yeah, we can use that there. But in the overall field of sociolinguistics, which is using language in society, I'm a sociolinguist, among being a phonetician as well. But the you've got the fact that you can switch between different languages of different origins, uh, between Spanish and English, if you want, something like that, to give an example, or Japanese and French. That'd be code switching, code mixing. If you're doing it, code switching, if you're switching at the sentence level, and code mixing, if the clear definitions between single words here and there, borrowed words, or words that are just brought in for a word here and there. But the idea now here I'm seeing brought up is the idea of register. So you can switch registers, and we all do this all the time. Even the way you say hello, your greeting. If you say hi or hello, and you switch between different people, you're doing that. You're actually using different registers for the different groups of people, the specific people that you're addressing. So we could put this, yes, theoretically, into the whole thing of code switching, but it's inter-language rather than inter-language. Well, I want to be careful using a language. That means something else too with Larry Selig here. But if you are staying within a single dialect language and you use different registers, then yeah, that's what that's called. So again, that's the whole field of sociolinguistics. There are lots of people that have written lots of books on that. There's things like diglossian stuff. You just look at Joshua Fishman. Um, And that, think back to the 50s. I mean, that's a long time ago, but there are lots of books about that. In my doctorate degree, I used a lot of the thesis I wrote about one of the authors was Hammers and Blanc. So I did a lot of that. You can find a lot of this too with Suzanne Remain and all that for code switching and that. But I do want to say the other field that we come in this is psycholinguistics. So that's sociolinguistics, using language in society and how you use it and your choice of words on that. Psycholinguistics is learning languages, how you learn languages. And there's usually first language acquisition in psycholinguistics, and that's learning your own mother tongue, native language, or if you learn another language in school or something after, then you call it second language learning or acquisition. And we add another element to this, and I just read this and someone brought it up last week, of heritage languages. So this helps distinguish a little bit more. And we're going to kind of loop this together with Vice President Harris in all this. A heritage language, my children have been brought up in France, so they've got French spoken around them. Their mother is French. We spoke French at home, but then each parent spoke to the children in their language, in the parents' language. So I spoke in English to my children. Their mother spoke in French to the children. And now there are times I'll probably slip into French. It happens now as they're older, now teenagers. But I don't think, never spoke to the kids in English. Though she had lived in the United States for 4 years, so she's capable of doing that, but she didn't feel comfortable doing that. She chose to speak in her mother tongue, so that's why we chose to do that. So, but I would consider is that we can talk about a dominant mother tongue or dominant native language and a non-dominant, or we can call it a subordinate if we want to, language, native language. But now I've heard this called heritage language. So you've got a heritage language, which would not be, you get a dominant heritage language and you have the other one. So a heritage language, you don't necessarily, they're not but that prevails, right? So what we can see here with Vice President Harris is that she grew up with parents of two different backgrounds, Indian, the subcontinent India, the subcontinent called India, and then Jamaica. So that's two different ethnic groups, and she grew up in the United States. So now standard English would have been the dominant language, at least from school going on. Don't know about her parents, how they spoke together at home, probably spoke in English together, but they would have come from different, so they probably were speaking their own variants as well at home, given that English is spoken in India as well. So it's an official language in India. But who knows? I'd have to go look and find if the parents, one of her parents who was from India, they spoke, Tamil or Hindu or whatever. But the thing here is to know that there's a difference. So how this is happening really comes down to the focal point here. And so one of the things that we want to have to consider in all this with Vice President Harris is that is this trying to a way to try to win votes, or is this a way trying to connect with people? And as a few people have brought up, when you're used to code switching, it's just a way of thinking. It's a way of doing it. I mean, I do it in different languages every day, right? So, and when you've got several, and even at work and places at home, going to different, like go to conferences, you meet peers in the field and all that. You can just switch. So this is a way to connect to people. And given that it is a presidential election, and there is the goal to try to win, yes, it's intentional, I'm sure, because she's trying to get an audience that's going to follow her. But then, Trump does the same thing. He just does it he switches different fields and stuff. You can see it. I've done some analysis with his own speeches and stuff. So it is intentional. and there's nothing wrong with that. But people that are, complaining about it and criticizing it probably don't know other languages. They don't understand that. They don't understand, different types of dialects and all that, and how these things work and why it's important. But that's okay. She'll just do it, and we'll see what happens, right? If it's effective or not. But so these are the kinds of things. This is really interesting that John McWhorter brought up in his article, opinion article in the New York Times. Is called Harris Gonna Code Switch, the 15th of August, 2024. That's the date of it. Kind of interesting things to look at and consider. And given that she kind of grew up in Southern California and in the whole Oakland area, it sounds like. So, and that's where, that is actually, Oakland is where the whole Ebonics thing came up in, let's see, that would be in 1995. Yeah, 1995, Ebonics, the whole thing came up with the whole thing in Oakland, California with black speech. And Tom Sawalis wrote a post on Linguist List about this, which is great. I cite this a lot. Just look up Tom Sawalis, Sawallis, 1995. He made a great post about how people master their native language or white speech or ethnic speech or what you want to call it. These are different ethnic groups, right? And he did a great post about that. That's worth looking at. I've cited that thing a lot over the years, and now it's really important to see that John McWhorter said, and a few other people saying, finally, code switching is coming up to the level of getting attention at the presidential platform during for the elections. It's getting that kind of visibility. It's like getting with the visibility, artificial intelligence finally getting visibility after 30 years, right? Wow, same kind of thing here, but on a different platform and for a different purpose. So we'll see how this goes. Be interesting to see how this whole code switching develops and how people be critiquing it and criticizing all that, and see how that develops and see if it actually works. So that's kind of thing. It's going to be interesting here. So thanks for bringing that. Thanks for the different people posting on this topic, and I'm glad to be able to give some thoughts about it, inject a few thoughts about it as well from experience and having worked on this topic for over 3 decades now. Thanks.